So while everybody's focused in on Forbidden Door, there were some interesting things said around the wrestling world regarding AEW and WWE and certain wrestlers. We're going to talk about it all next on the Squared Circle Psycho Babble. My name is Michael Valenti. Joining me is Ralph Valenti. Ralph, I want to start off with Wardlow because Wardlow just, is not typically a guy that you see say things in interviews or someone that gets interviewed a lot and has those interesting quotes to talk about. But he recently did an interview with Forbes and had a very, very interesting quote to say here. What he said was that he wants to be the reason why AEW's ratings increase. Now, they've taken a hit for the last couple weeks. They got a little bit up this past week's AEW Dynamite, but here's what Wardlow had to say here. He said, "I'm very in tune with numbers. And my main goal for AEW is I want to be the reason we have more viewers. I want to be the reason the female viewership goes up. I want to be the reason the 18 to 49 demo goes up. I want to be the reason our ratings are higher. I know I can't do it on my own. It takes help from the other young talent. It takes help from the legends and the guys coming over. But I want to be the one. I want to be one of the guys that are moving the needle for this company." So, do you think Wardlow can be that guy that he says he wants to be, that needle mover for AEW?
I certainly think he can be. I think they have something special with Wardlow, and I might argue that he's been their most successful homebred talent, if you want to call it that. I mean, they've had certain guys that have had a little bit of success before they went to AEW, but I mean, Wardlow, I don't think anybody, unless you saw him maybe at a couple independent shows here and there, knew who he was. And to see where he was before he got there, to see where he is now, definitely encouraging to see it. The big question is, what happens after Forbidden Door? Do they continue to push some of the guys from New Japan Pro Wrestling? Are any of those storylines going to be lingering? Or is this more or less like Forbidden Door happens and, wash your hands clean of it and we're on to just back on track with just strictly AEW feuds? If that's the case, they can get right back behind Wardlow, hopefully push him strong and capitalize on his momentum. If certain guys are going to stick around for a little bit, especially if somebody like, Tanahashi ends up winning the belt, he sticks around. If a couple other guys stick around, does Wardlow get forgotten?
Well, I mean, they've tried to find ways to keep him on TV. And I think as long as he stays on TV, that's only going to help his momentum, even if he's not part of Forbidden Door. I also think him going for the TNT championship is also going to help because if he wins that, he could be a guy that, I don't know if he does an open challenge, but definitely makes that title more relevant than it has been in the last few months, honestly, since Cody Rhodes left. Now you bring up questioning who's going to stay, who's going to go from New Japan Pro Wrestling. The G1 Climax starts mid-July. So the likes of Tanahashi and Okada and Jay White and even Lance Archer, who are in the G1 Climax, are not going to be part of AEW programming because they're going to be competing in the round robin, which now has 4 blocks as opposed to 2 blocks. So this is going to be very interesting how this year's G1 Climax goes. I'm excited for it regardless, but this is a guy that I see a lot of the same thing that I saw, 5-6 years ago with Braun Strowman. They had that guy white hot, and all he had to do was destroy things. And it was like, people just want to see him, flip over a truck or take a grappling hook and tear down part of the Titantron or spear Bobby Lashley through the video screen, and eventually get to that championship. But when the time came to pull that trigger, Vince balked and did not pull that trigger. And now, Braun is gone. By the time he got that title, it was way too late. And during the pandemic, and basically he was kind of the scapegoat for their falling ratings. Maybe one of the reasons why he and Bray Wyatt got released, because they were basically the focal point of SmackDown and was not well received. Not entirely their fault, but that's what happens. This, I think, is Tony Khan's moment to kind of right the Strowman wrong in WWE by pulling the trigger on Wardlow when that time is right. I think that time is coming sooner rather than later. I don't think him going for the title now might be the best move, although I was critical of them taking him out of number one for no reason other than Moxley just being the name value. I understand the reason, but it was really Wardlow shouldn't have been number one to begin with, but nonetheless, that's a different discussion. I definitely think he could get there. Does he have to be like an MJF or Eddie Kingston or a CM Punk on the mic? No, but he just has to be that guy that people just want to see kick people's asses. He's got a look that can bring in the female viewers. He's got that look that guys want, that will want to see him powerbomb the shit out of people to help bring in more viewers. Mm-hmm. He's got that Goldberg aura, to him where he doesn't have to be the greatest wrestler, but you just want to see him do his hits, Powerbomb Symphony. So yes, I could definitely see him being that needle mover and being one of the reasons why AEW grows the audience instead of deterring the audience.
I agree 100%. He's one of the few big men in AEW that's been booked well and well received and certainly over. So yeah, just let him go out there, kick people's ass. And I always say this, AEW, one of the things they do really well is video packages. If he's not going to be there, simple video package to promote the guy doesn't do any harm.
We talk about needle movers and main eventers and looks or whatever. Obviously, a hot button topic throughout the week was Adam Cole and his physique. And this has got people saying, oh, Booker T's body shaming. Adam Cole doesn't need to put on muscle. He's great as he is. This isn't the 80s. You don't need to be goosed up on steroids. Yeah, it went back and forth. Let's call a spade a spade. The dude is just way too small to be a main eventer. Booker T's not like it went back and forth. Obviously, there's going to be people that make comments on this and be asked about this on podcasts. Eddie Kingston was asked about this on the Mac Mania podcast. And here's what he had to say about those who body shame the likes of Adam Cole and himself, Eddie Kingston. He's not exactly the most physical specimen in professional wrestling, but here's what he had to say. If you don't like it, don't watch. If you want to rip on someone or knock on somebody, okay, man, I feel bad for you because that's what you get your rocks off. You're an evil, disgusting human being. That's all it is. And I hope you never have somebody rip on you like that. When it comes to Adam Cole, none of y'all are as athletic as him. For those people that are saying that, y'all are jealous. My man's living the good life. One of them would never step in the ring, not to fight. I mean, just even run the ropes. You know what I mean? Or even just step in there and they're like, well, that's not my job. Well, my man, you don't see me bothering at your job. You know what I mean? Telling you how to clean the floor.
You have Booker T's exact quote in front of you.
I do have the quote here, at least that is pulled up from Wrestling Inc. We got to get more weight on Adam Cole. You know what I mean? That's his problem. He's light, bottom light. We got to get some muscle on this kid. That's probably one of the reasons why he's going out there getting hurt, because it can't be the AEW schedule.
It's so tough. I mean, I think part of the problem.
If that's the quote people are saying is body shaming, I don't think that's necessarily body shaming. It's pointing out, hey, if he puts on a little muscle, that might actually prevent him from further injuries.
But I think part of the problem is this too. I think there's a certain percentage or subset of the fan base that wants to ignore the fact that there is an entertainment aspect to this. Arnold Schwarzenegger was insanely, incredibly popular, mostly because of his size and stature. Yeah, he's not. If he has the same body type as, I don't know, Chris Farley, God rest his soul, right? He's not getting that role as the Terminator. There is no Terminator Judgment Day.
But Chris Farley also got his fair share of roles being the character for his size as well.
No, and I understand that, but that's two different things. We're talking about an action hero, which a lot of professional wrestlers, this is my main point. I think that some wrestling fans are unwilling to accept that there is an entertainment aspect to that, because now you're essentially admitting that sports entertainment and pro wrestling are essentially kind of the same or similar. Adam Cole he's a pro wrestler, and a big part of wrestling is the perception, the way that people perceive you. If he goes out there 185 pounds soaking wet with no muscle, just, what he is now, essentially, that doesn't impress some people, and some people Some people want to see like the Wardlows of the world, and they're like, damn, dude, like, look at the size of that guy. That guy could run through a wall. They want to see a Brock Lesnar. And he doesn't have, he first of all, he can't be of that size and stature because he's not that big.
Right. Genetics won't allow it.
You look at a guy like a Cameron Grimes. That guy's body transformation is impressive. I guarantee you that's going to do more for his career than him just being whatever his body was beforehand, because he looks like more of a pro athlete. People are going to take him more seriously now. Adam Cole is extremely talented. He's one of the best pro wrestlers in the world. If he were to get himself in better shape, I don't think it's going to do any harm for him. If anything, I think it would do better. Do I care? No, I don't care, but I can understand why some people might.
See, if you're looking at it from a sports perspective, you could always bring up guys like Russell Wilson or Drew Brees or Jose Altuve, who are definitely undersized to the standard of their position and the sport they play, but have, gone above and beyond the expectations regardless. Altuve's a MVP, Wilson's an MVP, Brees is an MVP. So you don't necessarily have to be the standard to succeed. And we've seen like the likes of Darby Allin, become one of the main focal points of AEW, and he's even smaller than Adam Cole. So if who's smaller, people have never point out his size, why are we pointing out Adam Cole's?
Somebody like that, I would say, is the fact that one of them plays the underdog role and does that really well. He's always fighting from the bottom, and one of them is trying to convince you that he's one of the best wrestlers in the world and trying to present himself as like a world beater. I'm the best. I can beat anybody. That's Adam Cole. A lot of people aren't expecting a Darby Allin to go out there and start kicking people's asses. He's going to get his ass kicked, and he's going to endure, and he's going to come back, and he's going to win. That's not Adam Cole's shtick.
We've all seen the guy that kind of is a little undersized, that kind of runs his mouth still regardless. Even like at school or whatever, growing up, there was a guy that, even though by his size, he still like picked on everybody, whatever. Maybe that's Adam Cole. I don't know. But I don't think that quote itself, unless there's another quote I'm missing from Booker T, I don't think that's necessarily body shaming.
If Booker T gets a bad rep.
Yeah. If Booker T went out there and just like ripped him to shreds and just said like, oh, this guy has no business in the ring. This guy sucks because he's, 150 pounds soaking wet. That's one thing. If he just said, but him just saying, you know what? If he adds a little muscle, I like him, but if he adds a little muscle, he's going to sustain his career and prevent some injuries. That's a totally different situation. So I think this might be a little bit of headline reading and reaction, not reading the substance for context. Nonetheless, I do agree with Eddie Kingston's quote. If you're going to body shame and, make fun of these guys for their look or whatever, then, you're jealous. These guys are doing something that is very taxing to their bodies and going out there giving you 10, 20-minute matches, sometimes even longer. The minute you go into the ropes and just run them, you're going to be like, I'm done. Like, that's the thing. So I agree with Kingston's remark. And if it's those that are actually body shaming Adam Cole, I don't think what Booker T said was body shaming, though. And you could disagree with me in the comments, but I don't think that's the case. But let's move on to another discussion here. As we haven't seen MJF since his big promo on the June 1st episode of AEW Dynamite, where he called Tony Khan an effing mark. Gets people thinking, is he still with AEW? Is he writing out his contract to eventually go to WWE? Chris Jericho was asked about this with Talk Sport. And, a lot of people say that if MJF goes to WWE, his character would be watered down. Chris Jericho, I think, agrees with that. Here's what he said when asked about this. He said, oh, absolutely. He's better off staying in AEW. But again, don't stick your finger in the light socket. You tell a little kid not to do that, and they're going to do it. See what happens. He later on talking about how, despite his opinion, talks about how people might just not be happy at a promotion and wants to go to a different promotion. I did it to come to AEW. I walked away from WWE. When I signed my contract with AEW, Vince McMahon said, can you get out of it? No, you told me to go there. Same thing happened when I left WCW to come to WWE. Sometimes you got to take a chance. If you believe in yourself and you feel you aren't getting your dues, then you got to go elsewhere. So if Max or Cody, if they want to go elsewhere, that's kind of the way it goes. That's pro sports and that's pro wrestling. You got to have the best team possible with people that want to be there. I actually like this quote. The only thing I would disagree with is I don't think MJF would be watered down in WWE. Other than the fact that he won't be able to swear as much, what won't he be able to say? What won't be able to do?
Other than the swearing, yeah, I can't really.
And even
think of
then,
a
like
whole lot.
they're
I mean,
allowing a little bit more swearing on Raw, like especially in the third hour. You'll see a couple times they do say bullshit, and obviously everyone says bitch now. That's like the go-to word in a promo now, especially with the women's division. But I don't think he would be watered down as much, especially because Vince has seen what it's done on national television. If it's one thing with some of these guys coming from the indies and now coming to TV, it's like, nah, that doesn't really work. But if Vince sees it actually works on national television, or whoever's running WWE by the time 2024 comes, it's hard to say no to that.
It's also kind of funny because a lot of the guys that were in WWE are now in AEW and finding success. So, if he truly is as good as a lot of people say he is, if he truly is as good as he thinks he is, then it won't matter if he gets watered down. He could still be 90% of what he is now and still be just as good and successful over there. So I don't think he'd be exactly how he is, but I don't think he would be watered down entirely.
The only way you're going to know for sure is if he makes the move. I don't know if he definitely makes the move. I think this whole thing right now is a work, obviously. But 2024 still comes. He gets everything he wanted in AEW and still goes to WWE. But time will tell. But speaking of, someone that went from AEW to WWE, that's Cody Rhodes, has had a very good run in WWE since his return. He's basically been the face of Raw before his torn pectoral muscle happening right before Hell in a Cell. And WWE actually makes an announcement saying that he's going to be out for 9 months. But Cody Rhodes, on the other hand, has other things to say about that, saying on Instagram, I've heard 9 months. That's their plan. I've never concerned myself with other people's projections. I've got a plan of my own. Let's finish, all of us. Do you think the 9 months was over projection to kind of get that big pop when he shows up unexpectedly? Or do you actually think 9 months is really the projection and he's actually not coming back till after 9 months?
I would put my money on him coming back before 9 months. And the reason I say that is because so many wrestlers so many times have had those injuries where it's projected 12 months, 10 months, and they come back in 6 or 7 or whatever the case may be. I think Cena came back earlier than anticipated. I think Triple H has certainly come back from injuries much earlier than anticipated. So I think it can be done. The unfortunate thing is, no matter how bad Cody wants it to happen, it's up to his body. It's up to how he reacts to that surgery. And, he could put the effort in, he could put the work in, but his body's got to cooperate with him there. So I don't think he truly has any say in it.
No,
when he's ready, he's ready.
Right. But I do think I think personally that they overshot the projection to make you believe he's going to be out longer than he really is. And then shows up at the Royal Rumble, wins the Royal Rumble, gets the title match and wins at WrestleMania. The only way this works is if Seth Rollins wins Money in the Bank and cashes in successfully on whoever the champion is. That could be Roman Reigns. And speaking of Seth Rollins, he had something interesting to say himself and going to Twitter to say it, because there was an article written by the New York Post where they were actually applauding the run that Seth Rollins has had recently. And the headline read, Seth Rollins is maybe having a better run than Roman Reigns, or something along those lines. Seth Rollins retweets it and says, cut the maybe, and you've got the right headline. So he's alluding to the fact that Seth Rollins is having a better run right now than Roman Reigns. Ralph, do you agree with that?
Yes, I do. He's had the most intriguing storyline, I think, in Cody Rhodes. I think that they have certainly brought out the best in one another. I think that Seth Rollins is definitely getting the respect he finally deserves. Long overdue. Roman hasn't wrestled a whole lot lately. I mean, his match with Riddle was very good and a shit ton of people watched it, so that was great. And I'm not saying that Roman Reigns isn't good, and I'm not saying that his title run hasn't been successful either, but if there's anybody that's in a position right now to beat him for that title, I think it is Seth.
Yeah, I agree. I think at this point, you have to do it. You have to do it. Have Seth win Money in the Bank, cash in at SummerSlam, and recreate the heights of the century, and let Seth carry that title all the way to WrestleMania.
Yep. And forget about your dream match with The Rock. None of that. Look, invest in your future. No, it does not. And you don't need to do it. And you don't. Look, for once, invest in your future. You got Cody. He was white hot. He'll come back. He'll still be white hot. That feud culminating at WrestleMania, that's exactly what you want as a wrestling fan. Like the perfect storyline for the stars to align like that, assuming nobody gets hurt. It's almost like it's crazy to see how all this stuff is kind of lining up, because if Cody didn't get hurt, I got to think he's the front runner to win Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Right? Yep. Cody gets hurt. Seth goes on an amazing run. He's white hot. He's doing great. Roman's champion. That clears the path with Cody being out for them revisiting what maybe would have not been revisited. Seth and Roman. Because Seth getting over to this point and having this run that he's having was alongside Cody. So Cody coming to WWE was a big part of that. Cody getting hurt, unfortunately, was a big part of that. So it's crazy to see how this is lining up. If it actually pans out the way that I think a lot of people want it to pan out, we'll see. But I think Seth's got to be the guy to beat Roman.
And I think also you have to give credit to WWE where it's due. I know they get a lot of crap for not building stars or whatever. And I will admit, Roman not being there on TV as the unified champion is not good for that title and not good for the product. But at the same time, we have seen people step up, whether it was Cody and Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre, has gotten, his momentum back on SmackDown. Gunther is, quickly becoming a dominant force on SmackDown, now winning the Intercontinental Championship. Riddle proves that he could be a main eventer for WWE, at least for maybe a B, quote unquote, B pay-per-view, but went toe-to-toe with Roman Reigns, had a good match, and they drew very good numbers ratings-wise, even more than people watching Vince McMahon, So that's good there. Randy Orton was having a phenomenal run with RK Bro before his back injury. So, I mean, Kevin Owens and Ezekiel, as stupid as that storyline started out to be, they are both hitting that out of the park. So, there is some good stuff from WWE right now, and I think it definitely starts at the top, and it's trickling down. And if Vince has anything, any power right now in creative, at least they say he does, and he sees this, I think it's time to get that belt off of Roman and start using these guys as the main eventers, because you've built that upper mid card, and now it's next man up, and you have them there. And they've proven to you, you don't need Roman to be the all eggs in one basket. Seth can lead the way. You have Cody when he comes back. You have Drew. You have Riddle. There's guys there.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%. I think that WWE does get criticized, and rightfully so, many times, but I don't think they get enough credit for some of the things that they actually do right a lot of times too.
Right. But nonetheless, let us know what you guys think. Can Wardlow be a ratings needle mover for AEW? And do you think Seth Rollins is having a better run than Roman Reigns right now? Let us know in the comments below, or tweet us at SCPB Podcast. Subscribe, hit that bell for notifications, and we'll see you on the next episode of the Squared Circle Psycho Babble.